material for you guys a little later of what's called facts, so you can grab one on your way out of everything that I'm telling you. I deal in realities and I deal in facts, but I want to thank everybody for coming today. As everybody knows, I'm not one to go into the airwaves to negotiate or to get into Twitter wars or any of that stuff. That's not my style. But I want to make it clear to everybody here. Atlantic City is under state supervision today. And for anybody to say that Atlantic City is being held hostage, I would quite say the opposite. The governor has made something that we're holding Atlantic City hostage with this bill. He has the power. A bill is not needed for him to exercise his authority. Under Title 52 that I have here, he has the authority. Under the laws of 47, that the state has been in Atlantic City since 2010 with DCA and local finances, local Board of Finances in the state. They actually have had supervision throughout all these years, and inclusive collective bargaining, that they actually approve or deny, and that has been part of it. Collective bargaining is a right, that is a democratic value, that I think that at this point in time, these are people's lives that they've negotiated. You will hear later from Dominic Marino, the president, from the firefighters, but Pat Colligan from the PBA is on his way here. He was delayed. He will, and he asked anybody to call him, and then he will meet with any one of you. Since 2012, the PBA line item for salaries has decreased by $17.2 million. They have knocked off 100 employees off the force. I actually try and arm myself with facts. And telling you that, I've talked to experts, rating companies, and OLS, that we have a memo here that some of you may or may have not seen it, so I made copies of it, where they have the statutory power to help Atlantic City. Now, it is the responsibility of the state. Talking to experts, rating companies there's two states that are the gold standard in the nation, that the rating is normally higher, and that's North Carolina and New Jersey. And the reason being is that the state has supervision of its municipalities. So if some municipality was going to default on their bonds, the state has an obligation and has the mechanism to actually step in, and many things that they can do under Title 52:27. Which I have copies there for you, and it's very, very extensive. So saying that, the governor has the tools that he needs to actually make Atlantic City come out of the wood on this problem that they have. Now, I want to sort of reiterate other things that have been said that are not quite truthful, to say the least. Number one, there was a pilot bill. The pilot bill was put on the governor's desk in June of 15. The governor went out campaigning at the end of June. He did not come back until November to actually CV that bill. We concurred with the CV, and even further, there was a cleanup bill that was given on the last day, on the sign and die session, that I spent here till 2 in the morning, but most of you were here, to get that bill passed with bipartisan support, with the help of his chief counsel, to make it a better bill, that he was supposed to take action on that bill. Now, why was he supposed to take action? That amount of money was in the budget of Atlantic City. And if you look at the line item, it was anticipated revenue that was a recommendation from the governor's emergency manager, and local finances approved it because there was that deal to put it in. So that is the person you need to look at when you want to blame anything of Atlantic City. That is on him. We gave it to him. We did his fix. We did the CV. We did his fix. He took no action on it. Then I'm going to clear another thing that's been reported on a couple of times. There was a takeover bill, I guess we'll call it first generation, that was in last session. And I was asked, and I'll tell you all, everybody here, Senator Sweeney was not part of the conversation, so he has no knowledge of what I said or what I didn't say. So that'll make that clear. The person that has knowledge of what was said is the governor. I was asked, will I bring it up? And I said I would bring it up to the caucus. That was on January 11th, to bring it up on January 11th. And I actually brought it up to the caucus. But we didn't even get to talk about it. I've talked about it on many occasions, and I'll repeat it again. And I will repeat it in front of the governor and in front of the Senate President, if anybody wants to be clear on that. We never got to talk about the bill for the reason being in the Senate, they actually had given it to the Senate also. So this was driven by the executive branch. It actually blew up. And I got a text that I believe Senator Whalen had even stormed out of the room. There was, in one of my members, I think it was maybe for 30 seconds, it was talked about, that it was saying, you know, why would we even be considering a bill? And all I said was, it was asked of me to show, to see if there would be support. And basically, that was the conversation. We took it down. It did not go anywhere. We did do the cleanup bill, that was the ask, that made the pilot bill a better bill. So that's the case with that of Atlantic City. When you talk about the powers that the governor has under Title 52 and having, you know, a monitor, having been under, you know, they get transitional aid, so they have a memorandum of understanding that they have control over their finances, who they can hire, who they can fire. So there's a lot of constraints there. To come back to me and say it's on me, absolutely not. It was his 5-year plan that he put in place that has not come to fruition, and it has had problems. So I got to tell you, and I will take after any questions, and I'll answer anything, because I can tell you, talking to financial experts and the credit rating agency, Atlantic City, number one, would need authorization from the state of New Jersey for bankruptcy, number one. And that is one of the mechanisms that's why credit rating agencies find it so favorably. But under Title 52, if they even default on a bond payment, it is the obligation, and there is the mechanism for the state to step in and actually bail them out. That's already in the law. So I have no idea what the reasons, and the question that needs to be asked is why the governor is not using his power, and what are the reasons that he wants this bill. And I can tell you, when a bill says that the state would be exempt from unfair labor practices, read the bill. It actually says that. That's not very democratic. That's not a democracy. So I tell you that, along with collective bargaining, is a non-starter. We could, and I tell you today, I'd be willing to work on a bill, taking this out, that'll make it a better bill, that will have, probably could have unanimous support when it would get to the floor. And with that, I'm going to bring up from the firefighters, Dominic Marino.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
Dominic Marino with the Professional Firefighters Association of New Jersey, and I represent the firefighters in Atlantic City and numerous throughout the state here in New Jersey. We're here today to lend our support to the Speaker. Collective bargaining is essential in any labor management atmosphere. Dictating doesn't really get us anywhere, and it fosters negative attitudes, and it just goes downhill. The fire department in Atlantic City, like the Speaker said for the police department, over $10 million in the last 8 years has been reduced out of the fire department budget. I'm not going to stand here and negotiate through the press. That's not the way we do things. The fire department has, the members of the fire department have sat with the mayor, have sat with the monitor that was the state had put in, has negotiated throughout the last 5-6 years to reduce where they can reduce. The numbers of the firefighters have been reduced to a point where now the safety of the citizens and the firefighters become an issue. The fire department is still not closing the door. We are willing to sit and talk, just like the mayor is willing to sit and talk. We just need the governor to stop dictating and sit down and negotiate. Over the last 40, 50, 60 years, contracts have been negotiated. That's a give and a take. So in order to get something in a contract, you might have had to give something up. So over 40 or 50 years, things played were less or more depending on what management wanted or what the union wanted. And that's what the negotiation process is all about. To come now, 40, 50, 60 years later, to say, throw that away, and now we're just going to dictate to what you can do, that's not a democratic society as far as we're concerned. We're talking about people's lives. The mayor is saying there's not going to be a paycheck come, in 2 weeks. The governor is saying, well, if you don't do what I say, tough. Somewhere they need to get into a room and sit down and talk instead of fighting it out in the papers. So I appreciate what the speaker is doing. I applaud him for his forthwith to come out and do this, and we will support in any way possible the endeavor that the speaker has. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. Marino, M-A-R-I-N-O.
Yeah, and one of the other quotes that was told to me today, that there was a game of chicken being played. And the one playing the game of chicken is the governor. As I said, if there's a default on any of the bonds, that actually has a ripple effect on all the credit ratings of all the municipalities and the state. And listen, if he's trying to go for an 10 downgrading and go more, then listen, who pays here at the end of the day is the residents of the state of New Jersey. And we have done everything that has been asked of us, whether it was that pilot bill, to make sure that, as I mentioned before, it was part of the budget, because the assumption was that it was going to be there. So that's pretty much all in a nutshell, everything. If anybody has any questions of anything that's been said, I'll be more than happy to answer it. Again, Title 52, where he has the powers, the memo from OLS talking about that, it's all here. You can take a copy of it. I'm not making things up. I'm not saying sound bites. I've said this, we need to get into a room. If you want a bill, I'm more than happy to give you a bill, but it's gotta be a bill that's negotiated. That to tell me and dictate to me that you're not gonna change one word, I said that's preposterous, when it's not needed. And I would ask again, you need to ask why he's not using his authority and what are his motivations for having this bill.